This is part 3 of my vlog series where I'm setting up a small soundproof and acoustic treated studio space inside of my rental house without doing any permanent construction or otherwise violating any terms of my lease. If you haven't seen part 1 and 2 yet, a link will be provided so you can check those out. Now let's get right back into the project. So this here is the power conditioner. This is what everything is going to plug into, all of the expensive, important equipment. It has several spots to plug stuff in on the back. So a little bit of backstory. In the house I used to live at, we had pretty weird wiring. Somehow I had 3 different computers and they all suffered from some sort of anomaly in the power. Would fry something in the motherboard or in the power supply. I could never get the computers working again, so that's 3 good computers down the tubes before I finally realized that it was important to use one of these. And then as soon as I bought one of these, I never had a problem with it ever again. So I cannot recommend this highly enough to anybody with a good computer or any sort of sensitive electronic equipment. Do yourself a favor, get a power stabilizer. Line conditioner, I think they go by a few different names, but so that's what this is. And then I cut a hole in the wall over here, that way we can feed the cord through the hole and out the other side and plug into the outlet. So we're just going to wipe off the dust that's around this hole. I just had this wooden shim in place just so I didn't have to touch the insulation, because I don't like to touch the insulation with my bare hands. Okay, so just put this through and then hope that it comes out the other side. I may not have cut the hole big enough. Alright, we got it through the other side. Let's just switch it on and make sure it's going to work. You can see the LEDs indicate they're both green, so that indicates that the power is just fine on this outlet. There's a few outlets in this house where it has red line fault light instead. And I think that just means that some of these outlets don't have the ground hooked up properly. So I have to hunt and find an outlet in this room where the power conditioner actually worked and they both lit up green. So this one is working fine. So now we're going to finish this up like any true professional would. And that's with some duct tape. And that's why we wiped away the dust from around the hole, is that way the duct tape would stick better. Because obviously this doesn't like to stick onto a dusty surface. And we're doing this just to seal up the gap, to make it a little bit more airtight. You know, in other videos about soundproofing, they would recommend anywhere that there's a power outlet or a light fixture that you would just caulk up the seams or seal up the seams somehow. So this is kind of my cheap and easy solution to that. If you can't duck it, screw it. I mean, we're not using screws, we're using tape, but the theory remains the same. After that beautiful job, we're going to call it good. Maybe we'll go to the outside of the enclosure and also tape that up too. And like I said I was going to, I put the rest of these drywall scraps, just the odds and end pieces, up here on top. I didn't bother screwing them down or anything like that. You know, I just needed a place to store this stuff. It's taking up space inside my garage, so I just figured I would stack them all up here. I have some clearance for the ceiling fan light, but obviously not very much clearance at all. So we're just not really going to use this light switch. We're going to use other light fixtures that I plug in. Not like this one. This is my work light, but I have some other solutions for that we're going to set up at a later point. I would say we're just about ready to start setting up the computer inside of here. The acoustic treatment is still going to take a little bit. I'm waiting for some foam to arrive that I ordered on the internet. And but for now we can at least plug in the computer, start using it. It will just sound kind of terrible in here. Lots of echo still. I don't know if that's coming through on the recording, if my voice sounds normal out here and it sounds more echoey in here. I know that in real life I can hear a big difference, but maybe that'll be coming across the microphone too. moral of the story is we really need to do some acoustic treatment inside this space. My plan is to kind of put a big sound absorber in the corner. The blanket that we have for the doorway space here is going to function as an absorber, but probably put something like right next to it over here on this wall. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you just draw an imaginary line from the speaker cone of the studio monitor and figure out where that sound wave is going to make its first contact at on the wall, that's called your first reflection point, I think it is. Anyway, for the first reflection point for both speakers, we're going to need to put a big sound absorber at that point on the wall too. And we'll probably do another one across the corner here, another one across the corner there. Maybe do the same down below in these corners. And those are the bass traps. And that will be like our minimum viable sound absorbing acoustic treatment. I still got this piece of foam, and I was thinking that I'll just cut this into smaller pieces and just kind of put them at random points along the middle of the walls and the ceiling, just for a little bit of extra absorption, but we're not going to rely on this to do very much heavy lifting at all. And I think it's important to note also the difference between soundproofing and acoustic treatment. Soundproofing is what we did with all of the extra insulation and layers of drywall to try to keep our noise inside the house and try to keep the neighbors' noise outside. The actual acoustic treatment is what we're doing with the foam paneling and trying to deaden the reverb and the phase cancellation inside of the space. So they're two quite different things, soundproofing and acoustic treatment. So really quick, I just went and painted all of the exterior surfaces a nice gray color. I just wanted it to be a little bit nicer and a little bit more finished looking than just bare drywall. Just if anybody opens the door and happens to look in here, I didn't want it to look like an active construction project or anything like that. So I just went down to the local Sherwin-Williams and I asked them to set me up with the cheapest and simplest interior paint that they possibly could give me. They gave me something for $20 a gallon, and I just put the entire gallon on the outside here. Shout out to the Aberdeen Sherwin-Williams, you guys are always great. And we have kind of an unfortunate happening here, as you can tell. This part of the Velcro came unstuck from our moving blanket. So I guess I'm going to have to get like a thick needle and thread and just sew this part of the Velcro onto the moving blanket. That way it won't come off of there. I kind of knew that I wasn't going to be able to rely on the adhesive from the Velcro exclusively, so I kind of expected this to happen, but there it is. So our rolls of acoustic foam have finally arrived, and I've also got this adhesive that I got from the Home Depot, and I'm hoping that will work. I don't really have any experience with this product. We're just going to try to use that to stick them to the walls, and if the walls get damaged, then I don't care. I'll just repair them later. So one of these rolls is 72 inches long, and we're just going to use that for a floor to ceiling piece, and the other roll is 96 inches long, and we're just going to cut that one into smaller squares that we can hang up on the walls. They should be 6 inches thick by 24 inches wide. This is apparently just some high density open cell foam. I think it's 44 ILD, but I could be wrong about that. I will put up a screenshot of what the product looks like from the ordering page. To be honest, I just went on Amazon, and I know it's not very punk rock of me to support the Bezos machine, but for the sake of simplicity, I just went on there and I searched for memory foam, and instead of memory foam, this is what came up. So I'm not really sure what to expect, but it should be some pretty high density stuff, and we're about to find out. So let's open these up. And these showed up all vacuum sealed and shrink wrapped, so these are usually pretty fun to open up and watch them roll out and expand to their full size. On some of these, they say that it might take up to a few hours or more in order for it to reach its full size, but we're going to find out right now. So basically I'm just going to take my drywall T-square and my razor knife and just cut these up into a few different pieces. Again, for the longer one, we're just going to take it right in half, and we're going to have two long pieces, one of which we're going to stand up in the corner, and it'll go from floor to ceiling, and then the other half of that we're going to cut up into a few different sections so we can put it above and below the computer desk. This bigger piece over here, we're just going to chop that up into 24 by 24 sections, and we're going to use those for the main sound absorbers. Then we should have a few chunks left over after those two pieces, and we'll just kind of decide where those are going to go as we figure things out. This isn't going to be the nicest and cleanest cut ever. I'm not going to be super precise with it because it's just my stuff and I don't care how my stuff looks, but you can be as careful or not careful as you choose to be. So there's our piece. Like I said, I did a pretty crappy, ugly, quick cut. Probably could have used a better tool for the job, but it is what it is. Check this out though. This is some very, very dense foam. Like, check this out. I'm pushing on it pretty hard and I can't squish it all the way. This is some good, thick, dense stuff. And I'm no meteorologist, but I think this should be pretty sufficient for our acoustic treatment purposes. And the same deal on this one. We just found our center mark here, and then we're just going to cut it lengthwise instead of across into two long pieces. So we can kind of imagine a straight line that goes from my speaker placement all the way over to the wall here, where that sound wave will make its first contact point. And this piece of foam should land kind of in the middle of this wall somewhere about right like that. It's going to be a great big absorption pad. It's going to do pretty good, I think. And then we're going to make it so we have a long piece going from floor to ceiling in this corner, and then we're going to have one in the corner over there and in the other corner over here. And then if we have enough material, then we might also cover the corners down below. And that's going to act sort of like the bass trap is what they call it, because apparently from what I hear, the lower frequencies build up in the corners, and you want to have a big thick absorber in the corners in order to catch those low frequencies and deaden them so the sub-bass frequencies don't overload inside the space. And again, I'm no expert here. I'm really just going off of what I've read on the internet and kind of piecing the facts together on my own. So I actually decided to scrap my original plan, and instead of putting the 24 by 24 piece over here at the first reflection point, we're going to end up having this whole great big piece left over afterwards. So I didn't really come up with a good place to put the bigger piece at, and I thought that I would just fill up the rest of this wall with the remaining foam. So what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to put the bigger piece up here near the first reflection point. The first reflection point is actually going to basically be where our moving blanket door goes. So we're going to put that super close to the corner, and then we're going to put this smaller piece up on the wall kind of in that area. And that's how we're going to use up the rest of the foam for now. I think that you can already notice a big difference about how much less reverb is audible inside of the room. So this adhesive is not working out at all. As you can tell, I put a bunch of it on the wall, I put some of it on the back of the foam pad, and it's just not even sticking to the adhesive at all. It's almost like the surface of the foam is actually repelling the glue. So we're gonna have to take this one back to the drawing board and figure out something else to use to hang this foam to the wall. Okay, so I have a new concept here. We're just gonna take our spool of wire from earlier, we're just going to twist a nice little loop in the end of it, just like we did before. And then we have these pieces of plastic that I cut out. This is just some plastic garbage that I found, and my garbage poked a little teeny tiny hole in the center of it with an X-Acto knife. And that's going to act sort of like a washer, so that will distribute the weight across the surface of the foam. So the concept is we're going to push the wire through that hole in the center, technical difficulties, just like that. So this is going to sit on the surface of the foam. And then we're going to stab this end through the foam all the way through. And then once it's through on the other side, then we're just going to take our pliers again. We're just going to twist it up on the other side. And there will be a loop on the back side of the foam pad. Just going to take a regular Phillips screw and screw that into the wall. And then finally hang the foam pad from the wire onto the screw head that's coming out of the wall. I'm not sure if this is going to work yet, but we're just going to give it a try and see how it goes. So here's the new design in action, and as you can tell, it's hanging from the wall quite securely, just from two of these little wire tie dealies. You can tell the wire isn't pulling through the surface of the foam at all because we made this little plastic washer thing, so that's helping to distribute the weight across the surface of the foam instead of just having the wire going through in one spot and then having it be able to push through the surface of the foam and damage the foam. So we're going to call that a success, and I'm going to do up the rest of my foam panels in the same way and just get all those hung up on the walls, and then I'm going to say that the acoustic treatment should be done for now. So let's flash forward a couple weeks here. I'm joining you from the editing process, and I would have to interject at this point in the video that upon further review, I'm not really 100% happy with the results of our soundproofing in the space. I've been recording a few things on the microphone inside of here, and sometimes I think that the result sounds pretty decent. Other times I can still hear a bit of a weird reverb on the recorded track. So we still want to try to fine tune this, and we want to try to get rid of that natural room reverb that we have in here. Not because we don't like reverb, but because that is indicative of sound waves bouncing around the room, and when sound waves bounce around the room, they have a tendency to cause phase canceling, and we definitely don't want phase canceling in our recorded material. So I'm going to keep adding foam panels to the room and just sort of fine-tune the process as time goes on and see how good we can actually make it sound inside of this space. So this is what it looks like finished. Rate my setup. Interior design is my passion. You might notice that I pulled a sneaky and I added some carpet off camera. That's a thrift store score. Maybe a little on the grody side, but I sprayed it down with some cleaning products before I brought it inside here. And don't forget, we're going to have our doorway covered up with a moving blanket and also the doorway out into the hall there. We might add some more to this setup as time goes on, but we're just going to see how it works for now. I think we've done a pretty good job for the moment. Here is just a quick example of what my voice sounds like without any acoustic treatment in the room. And this is an example of what it sounds like with the acoustic treatment done. Now, I'm certain there are a lot of things that I've done during this entire process that probably weren't the right way to do it, or, maybe I cut some corners and I saved some costs. So before you get all up in my comment section down below and tell me that I'm an idiot and I'm doing all this wrong and that I should quit YouTube and quit music forever, just know that I understand all of this, and this is the good enough for me setup. Maybe it's not good enough for you. It's going to work for my purposes for now, and I'm just going to start producing music, and I'm going to start producing videos again, because it's kind of been a long while since I've been able to put any content out there, and I think that, I'm pretty happy with the results from this. I think that I did a decent enough job on it. That being said, I am more than willing to listen to any sort of constructive criticism that anybody might have for me. Let me hear it. I would be glad to hear your input on this project, and maybe I'll make some changes to it at a later date and improve my setup when I have a slightly larger budget for it and I can do things a little bit nicer than I have so far. Acoustic treatment is really one of those topics where you can just research the heck out of it, and you think you're getting pretty good information from one source, and then you're going to read the next article that you come to, and somebody's going to be like, forget everything that you've ever heard about acoustic treatment because I've been doing this for 20 years and I have this crazy method that nobody's thought of, or whatever. And then you're going to be impressed and you're going to be like, okay, well, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. I'm going to do everything exactly like this guy said then. Then the next article you read, this guy has 25 years of experience and he wants you also to forget everything that you've ever heard. And he says that other guy is wrong and don't listen to anything that the guy with 20 years of experience says, because the guy with 25 years of experience, he really knows what's up and he's really going to tell you the true secrets of the industry. So that's what the entire process of researching acoustic treatment for the sake of building my own studio on the cheap has boiled down to. It's just, you know, everybody has a very specific opinion about the right way to do it, but I think that the best answer that I've really got was to just do the best that you can with your budget and just experiment with stuff, really. So basically, we're done, and I'm pretty satisfied with how it's turned out so far. And let me know what you would have done different. And thank you all very much for watching this entire process. It has been a journey. I am excited as heck to just get back to normal and start putting out some songs and start making some new videos for all of you wonderful people who have been following my channel and supporting me through all this time when I've been mostly absent and not putting anything out. Thank you very much. And that is all for now. If you stuck with me for the entire 3-part series, thank you very much for joining me on this voyage, and I hope you got some value out of it, or at least a little bit of entertainment. I will probably be releasing more of these vlog-style videos as time goes on. As I keep doing cool projects, I'm just going to keep documenting the process with videos and photos and just kind of take you on the journey with me. I do all sorts of weird stuff here, and most of it is at least vaguely related to creating music or being a DIY producer in some degree. For example, one of the latest projects that I've done is I found a couple of my old guitars and I want to restore them and make them really nice and playable again. So just for kicks, I have sanded down all the paint off of the guitars and given them a new finish. I'm definitely no expert guitar finisher. We're just having fun and just doing random projects over here. So if you're into that kind of thing, stay tuned. That's coming up on the horizon. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching my videos. And please like and subscribe if you're feeling charitable. And I'll catch you on the next one.